Hey, what's going on everybody? Sir Da Vinci back here with another weekly vendor reset video for the Division. Nothing really much to say this time for an intro other than, been obviously spending still some time away from the game, been spending a little time playing some PC games and all that kind of stuff, but I definitely do plan on getting back on track with some other videos and all that, and as I've said for about 4 weeks in a row now, I do have a lot of content ready to upload. I just gotta find the time to upload it, and this weekend I'm actually going to be quite busy. Sunday I think I'm free, but other than that, I've just been busy. Alright, so without further ado, let's get started. Alright, starting off here with the special equipment vendor in the base of operations hub where all the DLCs start. We start off here with the exotic weapons. First off, we have the Centurion here, which has cool headed, which is actually a really good talent. I've never really tried it on pistols because I haven't really been able to get it in that specific slot. Or as a role anyway, but it does actually have a decent electronics requirement though. Next up we have the Pecan with Adept and Talented. They have the Cassidy with Brutal and Ferocious. Liberator this week has Responsive, Vicious, and Sustained, which are actually 3 pretty good talents. Personally, I would probably roll away Vicious for something like Destructive for PvE, and it also has Sustained for some survivability, and Responsive for that close range extra 10% damage. And lastly, we have the Historian here with Disciplined, Dominant. Really upset with myself the fact that I didn't play the game enough to get the Phoenix credits to buy this thing last week, because it actually had Brutal on it and something else you could roll away for something like Prepared. Unfortunately, I did not get it though, and that's on me. Alright, next up, still in the special equipment vendor, we are going to scroll through the gear set pieces now. Alright, next up here, still in the special equipment vendor for Phoenix credits, we find a prototype performance mod here with 6% first aid ally heal. 6% is the max, and it's perfect for anyone looking to run a support build, such as a healer, reclaimer build, to get that extra 24% first aid ally heal to heal your teammates up. Also, still in the special equipment vendor here, we have a nice extended mag here with 109% magazine size, 4% critical hit damage, and 5.6% rate of fire. I believe 5.6 could potentially be the highest rate of fire you can get on the mag as a minor attribute, because at least for me personally, I believe that's the highest I've ever seen. And it also has 109% magazine size, is nice, and 4% critical hit damage, which could be critical hit chance or reload speed. I would suggest getting that in that spot instead, but either way, this is definitely a good extended mag to get. Alright, we are now at the special blueprints vendor here in the base of operations hub where all the DLCs start, and we're going to scroll through here, and as always, like I said before, I'm going to do it in every video. If I have already purchased the blueprint, it's not going to show up here, so there could be blueprints here that you're not going to see in this video due to the fact that I might have already purchased it. So I always suggest to everybody to go to the blueprint vendor, whether you watch this video or not, just in case there's something I've bought that is actually on sale this week. But for this week, we have the classic M44 carbine, which is actually a pretty good one to pick up. I would suggest getting it due to the fact that it's one of the most powerful bolt action snipers in the game. As you can see, it can get up to 137,000 base damage. Also know that that's dependent on your firearms. The higher your firearms, the higher that damage is going to be. And because of the fact that it is a very low rate of fire, and it also cannot have an underbarrel attachment, it actually has higher base damage than most other bolt action snipers in the game. If you roll one of these and get yourself a nice headshot damage bonus on it with a couple of nice rolls, you can make yourself a pretty nice sniper that could potentially be capable of one-shotting. We also have the ACR blueprint, which is a decent assault rifle. If you have the lightweight M4 one or anything like that, like the police M4, lightweight M4, Elvoa blueprint, I wouldn't necessarily suggest this. I believe those are to be the best assault rifles over the ACR. So I wouldn't necessarily suggest it unless you need an assault rifle, in which case it's still not that bad of a buy. We have a stamina mask, electronics mask, flash hider, holographic sight, and performance gear mod. Alright, now moving upstairs in the base of operations to the advanced weaponry vendor here. We scroll down to find another extended mag. Just like last week, it's looking like we're going to find a lot of extended mags this week. But this one here has 110% magazine size, 4% critical hit damage, and 2.5% critical hit chance. The real only benefit to this one is the fact that it costs regular credits rather than Phoenix credits. Otherwise, I would suggest getting the one from the Phoenix credit vendor due to the fact that it has that 5.6% rate of fire, which is a hell of a lot more important than the 2.5 critical hit chance, at least in my opinion. Also here in the same vendor, we scroll down to find a Omega rifle suppressor with 16.5% headshot damage, 4.5% optimal range, 3% critical hit chance. This is a good suppressor to have on assault rifles and snipers. Those are the two primary weapons you want to use this on. The headshot damage could definitely be higher. I believe the highest is about 19%. You could also get critical hit damage instead of the optimal range, which would be better, and maybe even stability. Wouldn't be a lot of it, but either way, definitely not a bad suppressor, especially for base credits. Alright, still in the base of operations here at the Dark Zone gear vendor, which is right next to where the high value target vendors are, up toward the front door. We have another extended mag here, this one for Dark Zone credits. This one has 110.5% magazine size, 2.5% critical hit chance, and 4.5% reload speed. So definitely another good extended mag. The magazine size is the highest of the three that we've seen so far. 2.5% critical hit chance, I believe, could be up to 4%, and the 4.5% reload speed is still pretty good, even though I would suggest having that as rate of fire instead. But as always, or like I've said anyway, if you have a plethora of one currency over the other, then I guess you could go for whatever one suits you the best. But otherwise, like I said, the Phoenix credit vendor one down in the base of operations hub is still currently the best one we've seen so far. Alright, finally, this week we actually have a safe house with something worth buying. Here at the Wolf's Den northwest corner of the map, at the weapons vendor, here we scroll down to find a compensator. Now, a lot of people will be using suppressors with headshot damage on assault rifles or snipers, or on SMGs you'll be using something with critical hit damage. But this one, for anyone having trouble keeping their accuracy straight, or their keeping control of the stability on their weapon, primarily like high fire rate assault rifles or LMGs or anything like that, this is a good secondary or backup to that. You do lose obviously the headshot damage. You could still roll it as a minor attribute over over critical hit chance or damage like this one has, but this one here has 13.5% stability to help you keep your weapon stable, 3% critical hit chance, and 4% critical hit damage. Both of those things combine very well, obviously the higher critical hit chance and the higher damage when you're doing crits. I would personally suggest getting that, I would personally prefer having headshot damage over the critical hit damage, because 4% critical hit damage isn't all that helpful, but the headshot damage, seeing as how you could potentially hit every shot in the head, is going to be more beneficial, especially with the increased stability. You're going to be able to hit headshots a lot easier. So definitely a good one to pick up. Sometimes I do run stability as on one or two of my attachments on my lightweight M4. Personally, I suggest prefer to have it on my underbarrel though, due to the fact that the best major attribute to have on the underbarrel is critical hit damage, and for assault rifles it's not as good as it is, or effective as it is on submachine guns, so usually I'll run a stability mod on my underbarrel instead of the critical hit damage. But either way, definitely a good compensator to get. Alright, next up here at the Grindhouse Safe House toward the east side of the map, we have a nice AUG here, at least a pretty good one. It's got 19% critical hit chance, 18.6 thousand base damage. It's got Deadly, Talented, and Brutal. Obviously, you could have something better in the third slot, something like Competent, or any other electronic required skill. That way you don't have to worry about the electronics requirement. You could roll away Talented is the one I would suggest rolling away on this one for something like, you could get Ferocious, I'm sorry, not Ferocious, Vicious. You could get Responsive is a very good one. Deadly, have it being on this SMG already, is very good. And you could have a decent AUG if you get this one and roll away Talented for something like Responsive. Alright, for our last safe house in the northeast corner of the map, the Crypt safe house. In the weapons vendor, we scroll down to find a pretty good pro red dot sight here for SMGs primarily. It's got 19% critical hit damage, 4.5% optimal range, and 2% accuracy. Optimal range and accuracy are actually extremely helpful on SMGs due to the fact that they're primarily used for close-up, so the optimal range is not very high, and they're also a lot more inaccurate than assault rifles are, for example. So having an extra accuracy, although not that much, is still obviously helpful. And then 19% critical hit damage is exactly what you want to have on your scope that you use on SMGs, due to the fact that they're going to have high critical hit chance, and you can stack that critical hit damage higher, and you're going to want to prefer it over on SMGs over headshot damage. Alright, so starting off the Dark Zone checkpoints here at the East 46th Dark Zone checkpoint. At the Dark Zone vendor, we have a decent MP7 here with 21% critical hit chance, 5,600 base damage. It's got Dominant, Destructive, and Adept in the third slot, which is perfect. For SMGs, you don't necessarily need the stack skills with critical hit chance on them, due to the fact that you can reach the cap pretty easily with the fact that they have the base stat of critical hit chance. But either way, Adept in the third slot is still very nice, especially if you are lacking that critical hit chance a little bit. You want to try and get closer to the cap of, I believe, 60%. Then still not a bad one to have. Destructive, personally, I wouldn't suggest using it on SMGs, but due to the fact that it has Dominant, which is a pretty useless skill, and you want to roll that away for something like Responsive or Deadly. Definitely keep Destructive, and you can use this as like a PvE SMG, due to the fact that Destructive is not really as effective in PvP anymore, due to the fact that armor is a lot lower of a stat in PvP, so it's not as effective, but still a pretty decent MP7 if you need one. Obviously, it's going to run you quite a bit of Dark Zone funds if you want it, though. For me personally, I don't run the Dark Zone all that often, so it's going to take me quite a while if I want it. But either way, still a decent MP7, thought I'd point it out. Alright, next up at the 5th Ave Dark Zone checkpoint at the southern entrance of it. Here at the Dark Zone vendor, we scroll down to find a prototype performance mod I haven't really seen in a while, which has 2% pulse critical hit chance. 2% is the highest you can get on this one. And personally, I personally don't use it all that much anymore, especially while playing solo. I use First Aid self-heal, which is a hell of a lot more helpful than this, personally, at least as my suggestion. But still, if you're looking to increase that critical hit chance from your pulse, especially if you're running in a group, you can increase everybody's critical hit chance by up to 8% if you're running 4 of these. Could be extremely helpful, so it's up to you. But yeah, still a pretty good prototype performance mod to get. Alright, next up here at the West 31st Street Dark Zone checkpoint, which is the lowest bottom left corner Dark Zone checkpoint to enter. Here we have another extended mag with 110% magazine size, 4% critical hit damage, and 5.1% rate of fire. So I would consider this one to be the second best extended mag that we've seen, due to the fact that it does have magazine size and rate of fire. I'd rather have critical hit chance or reload speed instead of the critical hit damage, but still a really good one. And due to the fact that attachments are actually pretty cheap Dark Zone fun wise, this one is definitely an affordable one. You could run into the Dark Zone, get a few caches, extract, whatever, kill some NPCs, maybe they'll drop some, maybe kill a couple rogues, and you'll have enough Dark Zone funds to buy this. And it's, like I said, it's probably the second best, due to the fact that the other one has 5.6% rate of fire, only 109% magazine size, but that 1% isn't as helpful as that 0.5% rate of fire, at least in my opinion. Alright, next up at the West 39th Street Dark Zone checkpoint, here we have a nice weapon to help with your striker build, the SASG 12, which is decently rolled here. It's got 340.5% stagger, 96,000 base damage. It's got brutal, dominant, and accurate. Accurate is actually extremely nice to have on shotguns, especially the SASG, due to its high rate of fire. That extra 25% accuracy is going to help you get those headshots, which is nice to have brutal on the shotgun. Instead of dominant, I would personally roll responsive. I think that's probably going to be your best bet for the third talent to have on this thing, due to the fact that you're going to be up close, at least most of the time. And it's not hard to get within the 10-meter range, especially in something like Last Stand, where everything's so hectic and you're trying to get people off points and stuff like that. So it's definitely a very good SASG to pick up. I'm probably going to have to compare this one to the one I have now and see whether or not I want it. Obviously, once again, if you don't have a lot of Dark Zone funds, there's a high chance of you not acquiring this unless you really grind out the Dark Zone. It is the start of the refresh, so you got plenty of time. You got another week. But either way, a very good SASG to pick up if you can afford it. Alright, now up here at DZ09 at the East 64th Street Dark Zone checkpoint, we have a gear mod vendor here, and here we have a prototype performance mod here with 7% turret health, which is the highest you can get. Having that turret health is going to help your turret stay alive longer with any of your skill builds or Fire Crest. Personally, I suggest using this with a Fire Crest build due to how tedious fire turrets are in distracting your opponents. I don't know from experience of using them, but I know from experience of fighting against them that as soon as I'm getting hit by a fire turret, I just want the thing gone. So if I get a chance, I start firing at that thing to try and destroy it as quickly as possible. And if you stack 4 of these to get that 28% increased turret health, your opponent's going to be focused on it a lot longer, and it's going to give you a large window of time to shoot him while he's focused and distracted on your turret. Alright, next up, still in DZ09 at the East 61st Street Dark Zone checkpoint, we have the weapon mod vendor with a few good mods to get. First off, starting here with another extended mag with 110.5% magazine size, 3% critical hit chance, and 4.5% reload speed. Once again, I would personally suggest having that rate of fire over either critical hit chance or reload speed, probably over reload speed though. Due to 4.5% reload speed not being that beneficial, the 3% critical hit chance is going to help a lot more. But once again, another very good extended mag. Due to the fact that it doesn't have rate of fire, I would probably consider this to be probably the 3rd best extended mag in this video. Obviously, as said before, mods are pretty cheap Dark Zone fund wise, so definitely a pretty easy one to get ready and purchase if you want this one preferably over the others, although I would suggest the one in the Base of Operations hub at the Phoenix Credits vendor. We also have an Omega rifle suppressor here, which is good for assault rifles and snipers. This one's got 17% headshot damage, 3% critical hit chance, and 2% accuracy. Instead of the accuracy, I would suggest getting critical hit damage if you can on this type of suppressor, and obviously headshot damage could be higher, I believe up to 19%, but still a pretty good one to get if you have the Dark Zone funds for it. And lastly, we also have a C79 scope, 3.4 times zoom. It's got 18% critical hit damage, 2% accuracy, and 4.5% optimal range. This is another good one for SMGs due to the fact that its major attribute is critical hit damage. Accuracy helps on SMGs all the way due to the fact that SMGs accuracy are quite low, especially compared to assault rifles, and having that optimal range due to the fact that SMGs are primarily focused for close range. Having that optimal range to help increase its effectiveness at longer range if you're not using an assault rifle to compensate for it, then that's definitely a good attribute to have also. Alright, now moving into the Dark Zone here at DZ08 at the safe room here at the Dark Zone special vendor, we will scroll through all of the gear pieces now. Alright, moving on up to the DZ09 safe room upstairs at the special vendor here, we will scroll through all the gear pieces now. Alright, and finally here at the DZ06 safe room, we will scroll through all of the gear set pieces now. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this week's vendor reset video for the division. I appreciate anyone who watches, any feedback, like I said, all the time. Any feedback is always appreciated. I like seeing all the comments, conversations in the comments down below. And anyone who has any questions or anything like that, I'd be glad to give any information if I can. I know I don't do a lot of informative videos, stuff like that on patches and stuff like that due to the fact that PC are the ones who have access to the PTS, so they can test out all the new stuff that are going to be coming in the next updates, and obviously they're going to be able to give you a lot more info on the patch notes, so I kind of let them have that kind of side on it. Once patches come out, I would gladly show examples of everything in action due to the fact that the stuff in the PTS is always changing around and stuff like that due to each week they kind of give different things for people to test. But either way, other than that, isn't much else to say for this week. Once again, appreciate anyone who watches, any feedback, always appreciated, and I'll see you guys next time.